I seen some of the response videos. I know some of y'all got mad. I tell you, like, most of the time, people don't know how to read data on charts anymore. Some people do, a lot of people don't. Like, I remember there was a chart showing male and female IQ, and it showed how male IQ didn't really cluster around the middle toward average. You had like more male geniuses and male retards, you know. And then with female IQ, it clusters around the middle. And it's the same thing with like white and Asian intelligence. Asian intelligence is like clusters around slightly above average, whereas white intelligence, you've got these extremes of retard and genius, and you average it all together, and you have an average of about 100 IQ. You average all the Asian IQ together, and you have about 105. But the difference in your Asian population and your white population is your Asian population doesn't have very many geniuses. So you don't have very many super intelligent people. Whereas white people have more super intelligent people than Asians, but we also have more retards, so it brings the average down. But when you build a society, it's nice to have them geniuses. But anything them geniuses come up with, most of the Asians can pick up on. They can copy and replicate the idea because they have fairly high intelligence. But most of the time, the inventions are going to start with us and get to them instead of the other way around. I know the cultural Marxists have taught history in a very dishonest way. They get a lot of people that just do not understand per capita. Okay? So they don't understand per capita. And so they'll say, well, this number is bigger than this number. And I get a little bit tired of explaining it. But the FBI website, it has all kind of data on crime. And not just the FBI. You know, we take very detailed census in America. And so, like, some people may say, well, this number is bigger than this number, and they're not taking into consideration the population at the same time. And if you're gonna try to calculate the propensity to certain behaviors or the likeliness of someone to do behaviors, you've got to look at the data in terms of per capita. You can't just take the whole numbers and draw conclusions about the behavioral patterns of certain demographics of people that way. It's like a lot of this stuff happened with food stamps too, and the tax paying and stuff. That say, well, more white people are on food stamps, and that's true because white people aren't 12 to 15% of the population. But per capita, it isn't more white people on food stamps. And when you look deeper into it, the white men are net taxpayers, and blacks are not black men nor black women. There's the exceptions that are net taxpayers. So then you look at it a little bit different when you're saying, well, it's like the majority of blacks are on food stamps, but that still means less of them will be on food stamps than white people because there's just more white people. As a percentage, white people are less likely to be on food stamps. I know the number's bigger, but but even though there's more white people on food stamps, it's not as high a percentage of white people on food stamps, and then white people paid for them anyway. That's the point that you're missing. I get these angry responses and stuff, and people are just quick to see, oh, this number is bigger than this number, and you're not really looking at the data. And there is so much social conditioning that goes into getting people to strip away their family identity and adopt a civil identity. Because the government's not looking and saying, how can I take this random individual and make their life the best? Or how can I make this random family, that family, get more and more powerful over the generations? That's not the goal of the government at all. The goal of the government is for you to be just a regular, interchangeable piece of a tax farm. So they want you to strip any loyalty you have to your family or your tribe. And there's trade-offs to this. There's good things that happen because of this, but there's also bad things that happen. But because of this, it being a necessity to get all these different groups of people to work on the same tax farm, your brain's full of so much propaganda and bullshit from the time you're 5 to 18 till you graduate. From the time you get into school till you graduate, you're indoctrinated with this like cultural Marxism light. And it ignores so much truth. And we get told straight up lies. And then, like, China misreported their population several times. And Cuba, too, about the health of their people. So you would have some of these, like, just insane lies get passed down. Your socialist teachers would be like, look, it's better over in that country than this country, when it's not. And people are voting with their feet, trying to escape those places. The comments aren't showing up. Sometimes my phone will do this thing where it'll just go in the background. I can't see the comments, and I can't see the thing to flip the camera around. This time it's showing the thing to flip the camera around, but not the comments. Maybe nobody's made any comments. But for the last 2 days, I've been getting them comments from Muslims from various countries saying, much hate from this country or that country. And I guess I'm just missing it this morning. I can't see it. Oh, there's a comment. Check 1. Okay, the comments are there. I guess nobody had commented yet. Check 2. I see check 2 there, but I can't comment to it, but I can see it. Now, there's this meme that gets shared around a lot where it'll show all kind of skulls being the same skull, and then they'll put a Homo erectus or maybe a Neanderthal or maybe, some kind of hominoid skull that's not all the way human. It looks kind of like an ape skull, maybe a chimpanzee skull. And they'll label that skull as some type of political group. And they'll be like black, white, Asian, straight, gay, and they'll give them all the same skull type. And then they'll be like the conservative or the liberal or whoever made the post, whoever they don't like, they'll give them the ape type skull. And a lot of people shared this around because people are so ignorant. But the basic skull types of Africans, Asians, and European are not the same. The teeth are not the same. The nose, the opening is not the same. The eye openings are not the same. The brow ridge is not the same. The space for the brain on the inside is not the same. The space for the prefrontal cortex of the brain on the inside of the skull is not the same. There are differences. And then people will say, well, and I used to say this a lot, race is only like 0.02% of DNA or something like that. But it's important to keep in mind that we're like 65% the same as a banana, 98% the same as a chimpanzee. A very small DNA change is a very big difference, an extreme difference. And so people will kind of list, we are all genetically so similar. I don't know what they'll say, like 99.98 similar or something, like whatever they say. And they'll try to use this to try to say, see, we're all the same. But it's actually proof that we're different because we're not 100% genetically identical. There's going to be differences. There's going to be variance. And this is good. You know, if we were all one type of human, that kills us all. Or one type of, you know, one type of environmental change that wiped us all out. So it's very good that nature does this thing where it diversifies and makes many diverse types to be selected upon by nature, and that increases the chance that there'll be a type that can survive, that can continue on. So this is a good thing. And it's impossible to say this race is superior to this race because we don't know the future. You know, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket. You might think this is the superior race, then the plague just wipe them out. Or you might think this is the superior race, and then, you know, then any number of things can happen. But there's people that are going to get mad, and I'm not trying to get people mad. That's not what I'm trying to do. I recognize that there's a war against my people to try to annihilate my people that's been going on since before World War I happened. And it's getting more and more obvious by the day. And I'm not just going to like fade away quietly. And it's so if you don't, like most people, they're making decisions off of bad information. They're making decisions thinking everyone has the same potential of intelligence, of strength, of skills, of different things, and we're all different. We don't have the same exact purpose. We're not all made to do the exact same things. There are these pearl divers in the Philippines that have been diving for pearls for who knows how long, and their internal organs are different than most people on the planet to be able to withstand deep dives. And so it's not like everybody's just as good at deep diving for pearls. Who your ancestors are matters. Who you decide to have children with matters. And there's different breeds of human, just like there are different breeds of dog. People just have this arrogance about them, where they want to believe that whatever happy idea in their head trumps nature in reality. And people love to live in delusions. There's all kind of different delusions people like to live in. And it's just, it makes people feel better. Egalitarianism is like a drug. It makes people feel better because without putting in the work, without putting in the effort, you can feel like you're just as good as the person who put in more work and effort than you did. And you know, the insecure people, they love to say this all the time. They love to say, nobody's better than me. Meanwhile, there's a child molester down the road. You don't think you're better than them? It's absolutely absurd that somebody who will just fall into absolute degeneracy and go harm children, it's just absolutely crazy that someone will believe, well, they're equal to somebody who would like do a lot of self-sacrifice in their life, do a lot of charity, help a lot of people out. It's not equal. It's not equal. And so, you know, and that's why I gotta, you know, so there's a lot of hate that I get about over Muhammad, but he had sex with a 9-year-old girl. So he's not equal to me. He's inferior to me. He's not a prophet. He's not somebody who can teach me anything. He's a degenerate and an evil person. He had a lot of military power, and he was surrounded by a lot of greedy cowards, and it let him come to power and let him have a name. And you know, and I'm not gonna make this podcast. I'm not gonna make this channel about that. I'm not just gonna be on this channel every day, like over and over again, because I know I've done it a lot. I know I've said the same things a lot, but I'm not just going to be on this channel all the time trying to be some kind of anthropologist or trying to you know. But people wonder why we have a lot of problems in this country, in certain cities, in certain areas. And a lot of it is because people are just not taking the truth into consideration when they make decisions. They're not. Sometimes you got to take, like, if I was to get a Jack Russell dog, and I say, I want a Jack Russell dog to just be this calm, little quiet dog in my lap that I pet, I'd be a fool. I should not expect Labrador behavior out of a Jack Russell because it's a different breed of dog. That's not how they act. That's not how they're going to act. Maybe with an extreme amount of social conditioning and an extreme amount of training that's not worth it, I could condition a Jack Russell to act like a Labrador, but guess what? It's not going to be happy. A Jack Russell's only going to be happy being a Jack Russell. A Labrador is only going to be happy being a Labrador. And the same thing is true for humans. And also, different breeds of humans have different ranges of in-group bias. There are plenty of black people that will say that they're happier around black people than white people, and you'll see them self-segregate. When I went to Wheeler County High School, there were no rules about segregation whatsoever. And when you went into the lunchroom and you got your lunch, you could sit at whatever seat was open. People could sit anywhere that they wanted to sit. And all the black people would pretty much sit in the corner with each other. Now, part of this is because people are going to sit near their family members and their friends, who are a lot of times going to be people who live near them. And the fact that they are a homogeneous race to begin with is because they are only married and kin related to one another. If there was just as much marriage between the whites and the blacks, there wouldn't be whites and blacks. There'd just be browns. So to get the diversity of races, that happens from segregation. It's kind of a paradox here. The less segregation you have, the less diversity you have. If you have no segregation, everybody equally mixes. Everybody has no type of, you would mix together and there wouldn't be different races. The diversity comes from the isolation, from the segregation, not the unity. And so there's like this paradox there where they want a lot of diversity, but see, if you make every single country diverse, eventually none will be. Everybody will just look the same. You'll just mix them all into one breed, and then you lose a strength of flexibility, like I was talking about one type of disease might wipe everybody out, And you also will not be able to be one homogeneous breed of human and keep all the genes in the population. And then you're going to run into the same type of problems as incest. You need a diversity of genes in the human population. And you cannot protect and maintain that diversity by putting everybody together. Now, I'm not a segregationalist. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just pointing out that it's actually the segregation of nations that's caused the diversity. If they would have, you take in socioeconomic factors do not determine crime the same kind of way. You don't see, like, for instance, I'm just going to go ahead and say, you could look, they wrote a book called The Color of Crime, and they just put data in there. It's just true. Why you don't have as high a violent crime in poor white people as poor black people. Or, in Asians, it don't matter what their socioeconomic status is. Asians pretty much follow the law. But if you go to Asia, they stress harmony. They have a lot of shame-based culture. There's a lot of pressure to conform. They're not as individualistic by nature. Even the likelihood of somebody being on the political compass toward communism or individualism has a genetic component. There are genes associated with communal living that are high in the Asian populations. They're just naturally predisposed to wanting to be more communal and less individualistic. Like, you can see this If you just go to the Philippines and then go to England and just look, I mean, and so a lot of times people say, well, it's the culture. It's the culture. Well, where the hell did the culture come from? It comes from the people. Come from the people's DNA. I'm pretty sure, like, I mean, you can see this. It's not just the land. It's not the geography. It's not just the soil. Like, of course, if you was to go and we was to move to an island that had earthquakes all the time, it's going to change our architecture a bit because we're accounting for hurricanes. But there's a certain style that would still be there no matter where you go. It doesn't matter where Europeans go in the world. They'll build similar styled cities and buildings and have similar habits, and it's the same with Asians no matter where they go. If you was to pick up all the Norwegian people, if you was to pick up all the Scandinavian people and put them on the island of Japan, and pick up all the people on the island of Japan and put them in Scandinavia, you would still see a lot of the same cultural, a lot of the same behaviors and everything, because it's just in the DNA and temperament of the breeds of human. And we've changed words a lot for the sake of lies, for the sake of all this. And the words change what they mean over time. So to be a racist used to be someone who hated someone because of their race, or was prejudiced against someone because of their race. It was really, the word was like strongly connected and associated with hatred. And now they've got a new definition where they say it's impossible for black people to be racist because they don't hold political power, which is really not true anyway. But, because I mean, really, to be not even 20% of the population and have a president, to have all these mayors, police chiefs, everything, it's just, but anyway, even if you was to grant that it was true, it's bullshit. Black people can be racist whether they got political power or not. But the idea is that this racism is a weapon targeted specifically at white people. It's the white people that are always told you cannot be racist. And it's really, it's you cannot have you cannot have an in-group bias. I made a mistake. I'm on my phone and I just made a big mistake. I was early to work and I accidentally was driving up on here like I'm going to the damn school, and I don't even have no kids. I'm going to work and I do not need to be in this long ass line. I was going to be early to work. Now anyway, I just had to turn. I couldn't have my phone holding up in the air and be on my phone, which, I mean, I guess he's busy directing traffic. He probably can't stop me no way, but anyway, what was I saying? Clearly Amish. I'm not Amish. It'd be amazing if the Amish would just adapt technology. Well, I guess it's kind of good that they don't. The Amish, you know, the Amish community, they're all about forgiving and shunning. And so it all works as long as you got a certain type of people. But if you get a psycho in the community, they don't have any real way of dealing with it, because they don't put anybody to death. They don't beat anybody. They just ignore you. But what if you're antisocial and don't care? What if you don't care about shunning? So there's a lot of Amish communities that, and they hush up about it. They don't really want it out there, but where they'll have a case of child molestation and then they can't do anything about it. He's just a repeat offender. He keeps getting shunned. They're like, we're not going to talk to you because of what you did. And they ought to put him to death, but they don't. And then they don't want to turn him over to the American authorities or the English authorities or whatever. And it's just a mess. Of course, most Amish community, it's kind of a cult, really. It's a cool cult, though. I mean, as far as cults go, you could be in a way worse Jim Jones type cult than to be in an Amish type cult, but it is a cult. And they don't really try to spread their religion to other people. Like, they don't go into the nations and spread the gospel. They're just like, but we're talking about Amish. But you see it how certain families, a child might act a certain way, and you'll be like, well, he's like his daddy, or he's like his mama, or they'll say, that's the Browning in him. That's the whatever your last name. That's the, so people recognize that the DNA is playing a part when it comes to the way different families act. But then when it gets to the tribal level or the racial level, they're like, no, it can't be. But nobody in Japan, even if you were the indigenous people of Japan that were there before the Korean, Chinese, Southeast Asian mixed people, come over there to take it, the Japanese of today, there was kind of like an Eskimo type, Siberian type people already in Japan called the Ainu or something like that. They can grow beards, and a lot of times they have tattoos and all. They were there before, but they don't have citizenship because they're not racially Japanese. And if you're half Japanese, you can't be. If somebody comes into Japan, you can speak Japanese, you can learn the language, you can live there forever, you can have kids. You're still not going to be able to be a citizen. But no one's really putting a lot of pressure on the Japanese saying, look, you're racist. You need to let everybody come into your country. But that's being done in America, in England, in Germany, in France, in any country, any Europe. See, they got the gate locked. I'm a little too early to work. Am I early or I'm on time? It's 7:27. I'm 3 minutes early. Nobody's here but me. And the definition of racism is now, it's not even about hatred. It's about if you can even see a racial distinction. You're supposed to deny that there's different breeds of human being. You're supposed to deny that there's differences. And you're supposed to not take any pride in your culture or ancestors if you're white. But it's okay. If you're black, it's okay to have black pride, but you can't have white pride because you're just really a piece of shit if you're taking pride in something like race if you're white. But it's good if you're everybody else. And then the media really, like, if you ask, like they do all these surveys in churches and all, if you ask black people about child molestation, it is ridiculous how many of them have been molested by an uncle or something. But then did they report it? No, they almost never report it. They always never bring them to justice. And it gets reported a lot more with white people. But there was this black guy, he was molesting children. I don't know, it is whether it stays on the local news or goes to the national news or whether it even gets put on the news, the Jews choose. Okay. And so, like, there have been a lot of homosexuals who have raped and killed children. They took a metal pipe, put up a little child's butt and killed him. And it got on one news station in the local news and was taken down and didn't stay up there. It should have made national news. And it happens a lot. Homosexuals are more likely to molest children, but you're not going to see it or hear it talked about. And if a white person does some type of hate crime on a black person, it is going to be on the news all day long. But if you look at the data, most people commit crime within their race. That's because they're committing crime in their neighborhood, around the people near them. So most of the time, if a white person steals, he's stealing from a white person. If a black person steals, he's stealing from a black person. If somebody rapes, but when it comes to crime outside of race, if you look at it, black people disproportionately commit crime against white people. And it's not normal, but there's almost no crime white on black. There's way more black on white crime. All the data shows that, but the news doesn't show that. If you were to get your perception of what's going on from the news, you would think that white people are the ones going around doing all the school shooting, doing all the molesting, doing all the hate crime, being the racist and everything. Because that's what the news wants you to have in your head, because the news is owned by people who believe that white people are Amalek and want us destroyed. And so they don't want you to be able to see or know any kind of racial differences, because they want you to be perfectly happy being replaced by other people. And so it's not everybody in the world. It's not the people who are overpopulated in North Africa that are starving to death that don't have enough food to feed their people that are being told you're overpopulated. It's the people in the country with obese people on welfare. Like, look around. We are not overpopulated. Now, we do have like a lot of people that have like 2 homes and people who have none. But we don't have, it's not that we don't have enough homes. It's not that we don't have enough food. So on what metric, how do you judge that we're overpopulated? We're less densely populated than North Africa or Southeast Asia or almost anywhere. We're not overpopulated. We have enough food. Any kind of poor person anywhere around has food for free from the government, and a lot of them are overweight. If we were starving to death and you said we were overpopulated, that'd be one thing. But, we're not. We got, EBT cards, fat people with EBT cards that are poor. Poor people here are fat. Poor people in poor countries normally are starving, are thin. So we're definitely not overpopulated, but we're the ones that are told we're overpopulated, we're overpopulated. And I was saying it was a lie from the beginning because I looked at the population demographics and the birth rate and the death rate and the age brackets. And no one listened to. Everybody was laughing at me and saying I was ignorant. And I would say about, a lot of times they attack me with that argument with abortion because I was anti-abortion. And I'd say, we're overpopulated anyway. We were never overpopulated, ever. And we was dropping from about 30% of the world down to like 5 now. So we were never overpopulated. But the lie was repeated over and over and over again. There were places that were overpopulated because they couldn't feed their people. This was not one of them. And now they said, look, there's population collapse. We don't have enough people. We got to bring in other people. That was the plan the whole time. And now, if you have time, now one thing I want to tell you now, Google has an algorithm to bury certain information and put certain information on top. So if you just do a quick search on Google, they're going to lie to you. And Google itself was saying at one point that their quick answers were wrong like 30% of the time. Then it got to like 20% of the time or something. Every Google quick answer isn't true. And if you was to Google, was the Bolshevik Revolution a Jewish revolution? They'll say something like, that's an anti-Semitic trope. That's not true. But if you Google, who's the list of the Bolshevik revolutionary founders? And you get the list of people. And then one by one, you go down that list and see if they were Jews. You'll see that something crazy, like 98%, like almost all of them are Jews. But if you Google and you just ask the question, it'll be a lie, right? Well, used to on Google, if you go on Google Images and you Google white man with white woman, you would only get black men with white women. And you would go page after page after page. That's what you would see, except a white man that's got a white woman on her knees chained up, like in a negative way they're portrayed. They did not want to show the white family together. And I mentioned this. And I shared this on a lot of different Facebook groups, a lot of different, like on Twitter. And I just shared this to a lot of people in private messages and phone messages, And a lot of people started noticing it and sharing it. And then Google changed the algorithm where it doesn't do that anymore. But that wasn't something that just accidentally happened. That was done on purpose, just like it's done on purpose in the commercials. And then, it's like a monkey see, monkey do thing, right? Like after it had been put in all the commercials, after it had been put in all the images long enough, it started to be a trend of white women getting with black men more and more and more. Now, do you know of mixed children that are part black and part white? I'm trying to remember. I think it's an 80-something statistic, not a 90-something statistic. I think it was 87% of them are raised by single white women because the man leaves. So it's almost guaranteed that if a white woman has a child with a black man, that black man will leave and she will raise the child alone. Well, to say that is racist, right? You can't say that, right? And so each one of them goes into it being like, no, that's racist. That's not likely to happen. And then it happens to them too, and them too. And each of them think that they're so special. They're like, well, I'm so beautiful. Even though he won't stay with his own woman when he has a kid with her, he'll stay with me. Even though he's left 87% of the white women, he'll stay with me. And then the same thing happens to them. And you always see it. They make a big show of it on Facebook. Look, everybody, I'm not racist. I'm with a black man. Look. And then you see them share the baby photos. And then boom, he's gone. I'm looking for a white man. I'm looking for somebody. But it's racist to tell the truth. If you was to just say, well, look, the overwhelming majority of black men do not stay in the child's life. This is a cultural problem. Now, this is not a racial problem. I don't think that black people are racially predispositioned to this behavior because they weren't doing it in the 60s. They weren't doing it before the welfare state. Black people had the lowest rate of divorce. Their families were staying intact. And the socioeconomic factors for them wasn't good. They were starting to get businesses and land and everything, but they were a moral people back then. They were a different type of people back then than they are now. But the Jews, and I'm not blaming the Jews. It takes two to tango, right? So it's us buying the Jewish degeneracy, but it's the Jews selling it too, right? But the Jews, they had their rap labels and everything. And if a black man's like, hey, I want to make a song about a positive family or down with certain political stuff or whatever, they'd be like, no, we're not going to make it. Oh, you want to make a song about killing and stealing and all? Okay, yeah, we'll sign you right now to the label. And like Snoop Dogg, like a lot of these people that people think are independent, you look and figure out that the company they own, they don't own what you think they own. The Jews own it almost all the time. And anyway, I'm at work. I got to get off of this thing.